honest, I've been a big Zelda fan, but until now, I must absolutely admit, I never did a complete playthrough of Link's Awakening. What can I say about it? It's the fourth Zelda game originally released for the Nintendo Game Boy, but was re-released for the Game Boy Color as Link's Awakening Deluxe, which is the version I'm looking at. I played this off the Game Boy Player for GameCube, which preserves the original aspect ratio. About the only thing I can say I remember is the commercial for the game.
Creeping through with an overhead view, cause a man's gotta do what a man's gotta do. So I stay on track, collect the facts, never cut the slack, and I always watch my back for Jack. Zelda.
The 90s. Well, to start off with the game, we have a direct sequel to A Link to the Past and either a prequel or sequel to the Oracle games. Nintendo can't really decide on that. The timeline. Anyway, Link has defeated Ganon, but found himself growing restless in the times of peace that followed, so he left Hyrule behind the train, and on his way back home, a storm hit his boat, and Link ended up washing ashore to the island of Koholint, where he was found by a girl named Marin. Mistaking her for Zelda, Link heads off to get his sword and shield back. But when he does, an owl appears and tells Link that in order to leave the island, he must awaken something called the Windfish, which is a little vague, but with nothing else to go on, Link decides to do so. Not like he has anything else to do. The focus of the game is like the original Zelda. You go to 8 dungeons, you get the MacGuffin you need at the end, only in this case it's instruments. But the game really encourages you to spend your time on the island. Get to know the people and how strange this world is. There's a part where Link goes to a village and it's filled with talking animals. Now, since when have talking animals ever been a thing in a Zelda game? Well, okay, he was once a man, so that's a technicality. This island is strange. Marin's father, Terran, gets turned into a raccoon for some reason, but it's okay. That was odd. But before I tackle the rest of the game, let's talk about how Link plays. As this is a Game Boy game, you can only use 2 buttons, the A and B button, which means even your sword is an item that you have to have selected. Now, I understand why this was done, as it does allow Link to mix things up with his items, which otherwise couldn't be possible if your sword was always mapped to 1 button. Link controls perfectly fine, and it does work off what Link to the Past established for Link's movement, just in a more portable way. Link can do pretty much everything he could do in A Link to the Past. The spin attack, proper sword swings, the works. The shield is also an item that you have to be selecting for it to be used, and that's a little weird. You have to hold down the button for the shield to actually work, instead of automatically blocking attacks when you stand still. This doesn't cause too much of a problem for me, but it is a little odd. Link can also gain access to power-ups that allow him a stronger sword or increased defense. But sadly, this comes with a cost, as every time you get this, text will appear telling you what you have. Every single time. Is it not enough that I already have it? You gotta keep telling me that I have it? It's fine for the first time, but after the 3rd time it just gets downright annoying. Then there's the owl. He continues to interrupt my quest by giving me information that I probably could have figured out for myself, but hey, that's what guides are for. You know, I really hope you don't become a returning thing in the next game, owl. So I did the first dungeon. I like the process of finding a key to unlock the dungeon. It's not something Zelda tends to do very often. Anyway, the first dungeon is pretty easy. Tail Cave is your typical opening dungeon that allows you to get used to the game. There are 2D side-scrolling segments where Link will come across Goombas? Actually, this is the first of many Mario references to be had in the game. The item you get is the Rock Feather, which allows Link to jump. Yeah, that's actually kind of a first. It works great in the 2D segments. The boss is Moldorm, who is the same as A Link to the Past. Don't fall into the pit, otherwise you have to restart the fight from the beginning. He says something very interesting when you come in. Then you have to rescue a pet chain chomp, which is actually a really fun thing to use as it devours everything. The second dungeon is another easy dungeon. You get the power bracelet in this dungeon, but it's an item and you have to equip it in order to use it. That's a little weird, as I always thought the power bracelet was something Link would always have on. You get a pretty unique boss. A genie. No, not that genie. This one's evil. I like the idea of throwing the bottle and then destroying the genie, so that's 2 dungeons down. So now, I'll stop back at the village and buy a shovel. Now, apparently you can steal your items from this guy, but when you return, he will kill you, which I didn't do. Not in Link's character to steal something, even if destroying somebody's pots is perfectly reasonable. This is where you get access to the camera, which was a new thing for the deluxe version, as it took advantage of the Game Boy camera. The pictures are amusing, that's all I'll say. Before I continue, I'll mention real quick the item minigame, which lets Link trade for certain items. It lasts for a while, and your reward is the boomerang, and it's amazing as it destroys everything in one blow. Boom! Yeah, I like this thing. This should be his boomerang in Smash Brothers. Anyway, the Key Cavern. Annoying dungeon, because it's all about the keys. But you do get the Pegasus boots in this level, and they're an item just like every other thing in this game, so you have to equip them to use them. Like I said, the Game Boy only had 2 buttons to work with. The boss is pretty easy since it just involves slashing him to death after you cut him in 2. Before we continue, it's time to go to Animal Village. You need Marin, so back to Maid Village and you find Marin by the beach. She and Link have a conversation. A very nice, poignant moment, and then Link lifts Marin up like any other item that he gets. Okay. But I do appreciate the moment to flesh out Marin's character, as it gives Link a personal attachment to the village. Before we continue, this version has an exclusive dungeon. The Color Dungeon. There isn't much to it. The reward you get is a choice between the red and blue tunic. One gives you higher attack, and the other higher defense. I opted to go with the defense. So now, Angor's Cavern. This is where I'll talk about how you have to use the Pegasus boots and Rock Feather in conjunction with each other. You need to have both selected to be able to clear these large gaps, and it takes a little bit of practice to pull off. The main item in the dungeon is the flippers, which allows Link to swim and dive. Which leads me into the boss battle, where you have to fight a fish underwater, and he's actually really easy. In fact, I beat him in about 10 seconds! It's a new record! Now, I'll talk about Goholand, as it does have several minigames for you to do. You can collect rupees, find pieces of heart to collect. Then there's this part where you have a ghost following you around for a while, and you have to take it to its grave and then snap a picture of yourself next to it. How cute. Of course, then there was one part where I had to grind rupees, specifically so I could get the bow and arrow, which cost nearly 1,000 rupees in this game. I was so tempted to steal. Well, the Catfish's Mall is not that hard, but you get the hookshot in this game, and oh, I love the hookshot. It's so versatile and useful. What I most remember about this level is the rather hard boss that has its tail move around in the center of the ring, and that means it's annoying to fish him out with the hookshot. When you beat him, he says something very interesting. So pay him no mind, that's another instrument down. It's time to go to the Face Shrine, but first I had to grind 300 rupees. You go in there and you meet Wart from Super Mario Bros. 2. Odd. He teaches you the frog song. Oh, that's right, I forgot to mention the ocarina in this game. The first time Link has an ocarina. Wonder if we'll see a repeat of that. So Link finds a mural, but it's too dark to see, but you light up and you read the truth of the island. You sit in shell shock. This island, this place that you spent your entire adventure, it isn't real? The owl tells you that you can't be sure, but still you must complete your quest. But in doing so, you have the foreknowledge of the fact that you just might be dooming everyone on the island. What's the right choice? You want to finish the game, but is the cost really worth it? The Face Shrine is a very interesting dungeon, as it involves a very annoying feature where you must throw 2 horse heads and hope they land up, otherwise you gotta throw both of them again. Why does it not count when I get one? You get a better power bracelet in addition to having a more powerful sword already, so the trend of starting weak but getting more powerful still comes into play. The boss is really cool. It's a giant face on the ground. Actually, I pretty much figured it out already. Thank you very much, it's pretty obvious. You beat him and he leaves you with a haunting message. So, are you the bad guy and the monsters are the good guys? They're trying to save the world. You're trying to destroy it. Moral ambiguity in a Zelda game. I like it. Eagle's Tower is annoying because you have to use a bowling ball to knock down the pillars. Definitely recommend using a guide for this one. The boss battle takes place up in a tower where you have to damage the eagle. It's a nice atmosphere for a 2D game. What's annoying is that if you fall down, you have to do the whole battle all over again. I especially hate when he tries to blow you off. So annoying. Once you beat him, he warns that if the Windfish awakens, Link will disappear as well. One dungeon left, but before that you have to rescue Marin. She mentions going to see the Windfish, which means something. The feeling dawns on you at this moment. She'll disappear despite all the time you spent with her. I can't believe this is on Game Boy. But then you hit Turtle Rock, which doesn't seem too bad except for the fact that you have to fill up these holes in the ground in order to get keys, and this took forever. I thought it was something wrong, but you know what? It took nearly 30 minutes, and then I realized that there was an input delay on the Game Boy player. When I put this cartridge in my Game Boy Color, I did it on my first try. Now that just shouldn't be! You get the magic rod in this level, which lets you light things up. No magic meter required. The boss is one big fry guy, basically. Pretty easy, actually. The monsters are becoming increasingly more desperate to stop Link from achieving his goal. So now it's time to go to the Windfish's egg, which has been present the whole time. You need to write down a pattern in the book, otherwise you will get lost. But first you take one last look around the village that you've grown attached to throughout your adventure, and you have one last exchange with Marin. Man, I don't want to do this, but I have to beat the game. This toys of you. You want to beat the game, but you'll erase everything you've come to grow attached to. You go to the egg, and the ballad opens it. Time to head inside. So, the final boss is a nightmare, fittingly enough. He takes several forms, which I find appropriate. He takes a Gainon's form and Ganon's form. Even if he's not in the game, his presence is felt in some way. Then comes the final form, and you need to have both the rock feather and bow and arrow for this. The bow and arrow has been seldom required for this game, but now you need it. Shame it's so expensive. It takes like 30 arrows to kill him, and he gives you a haunting message. With that, you climb up the stairs, and the owl is waiting for you. He tells you that he is a representative of the Windfish's consciousness. But now it is time for Link and the Windfish to wake up. A haunting scene plays as the island is wiped out along with its inhabitants. Link wakes up in the ocean, and the Windfish flies above him, finally free. Now, it is unfair that Link is in the ocean, but with seagulls around, he is near land, so he's not doomed. If you didn't die, you get an extra scene. I didn't do that, but let's pretend I did! It's implied that Marin was able to escape the dream world, and that is how the game ends. Wow. I am blown away by this. This was on Game Boy? Link's Awakening fits what Zelda should be about. While A Link to the Past deepened the mythology, Link's Awakening told a much more personal legend. with the sacrifice of what you had to accomplish to succeed in beating the game, but maybe a twinge of hope exists after all. So yeah, if you're into Zelda, give Link's Awakening a shot. It continued what worked and condensed it into a nice little portable package. Link's Awakening is a very good game.